It had been a month since Levi killed Borgov. It also had been a month since he burnt down the auction house. A lot of women and children were freed from chains and whips. Many of them reunited with their loved ones. Many of them started a new life. The victims hailed him as a hero. However, his enemies had multiplied. But Levi just simply terminated the pests for vengeance. He never intended to save anyone. The auction house was a den of evils, and destroying it wasn't enough to stop them from committing another sins. Different factions, thugs and corrupt military police officers joined together against the common foe. They all wanted revenge. But Levi wouldn't just sit back and do nothing. To protect you, blood had to be spilled. The incident wounded a lot of people and a lot of merchants as the economy in the underground collapsed drastically. Brothels and bars were badly affected as well, owing to the fact that the demand for alcohol and women extremely decreased. It also set off a chain reaction in each people in the underground. Many prostitutes lost their jobs and many young helpers end up in the streets again. Normal citizens, who were living in an honorable life, end up committing crimes. Extreme hunger violently shook the whole city. The food ration from above was lacking. The crime rate increased in huge numbers as people murdered each other for food and water. Since the food ration from the royal treasury was diminished every day, the military police mercilessly slaughtered innocent citizens to reduce the mouths to feed. Many blamed a certain person and many wanted to take control. When the war broke out, many children became orphans. And when the situation gets out of control, the military police, the only people who has the power to implement the peace and order in the darkest hour, immediately disappeared from the scene. They left the situation and its people to its fate. The underground became darker. The ground became wet from blood. It had been a month since that faithful night with Levi. Many things happened. The doctors did come back the next day to check on Levi's wounds. That was when you found out from her that Levi was paying her to tend you when you got sick a year ago. That day also, his men retrieved your stuff from your home. You also thanked them for giving your brother a proper burial. Levi, scanning your stuff, felt a little jealousy upon seeing your artworks. There were plenty of portraits of your brother, different angles with different style and colors. Farlan had his own as well and some other orphans he didn't recognize, but not even a single piece of him. Not even a single sketch of him. This made his blood boil, especially when you started hanging those paintings in the living room. But there was a part of his brain that was fine with that. He'd rather see the portrait of your stupid brother or Farlan or some snotty orphans, than any other guy's hideous face. His heart was shrinking at the thought of you falling in love with someone else. Levi simply wanted you all by himself. Weeks had passed again. You remained inside his home. Other than reading books or making portraits, you had nothing to do. You felt like your world was fleeting. So when Levi's vertical maneuver gear malfunctioned, you insisted to have a look on it. The appearance, the mechanical system and everything about it seemed familiar to you. There was this weird feeling in your chest but you couldn't point a finger on it. Your hands also seemed like it has a great familiarity with the gear, like it knew how to disassemble it. That was when you asked Levi to teach you how to use 3D maneuver gear. You wanted to explore it. There was this inkling feeling in your chest. You needed answers for it. In your free time, when Levi was not around, you were busy making portraits to make cash. Ever since you could remember, you have a regular client from Walshina, who was buying all your artworks. Because of this generous customer, you could afford to buy expensive books about many stuff. But when Levi learned about this, he was clearly unhappy. His jealousy from the portraits never departed from his heart, and learning this news had strengthened it. He could no longer turn a blind eye on it. You both argued for 30 minutes straight about this topic. You kept telling him that you wanted to make cash, to buy more books. You also explained that you needed money for the parts of his vertical maneuver gear. But he kept telling you as well that he would give you everything you want as long as you will stop sending your works to that untrustworthy person, probably a noble from Walshina. He even insisted that he would buy all of it instead, but you completely disagreed. Why don't you just listen to me? He restrained his voice from raising, but his way to hide his frustration was failing. His hardened face spoke many emotions: anger, jealousy, and shame. You, trying to make money, were hurting his ego. His pride was somewhat dented. The things he did for you still wasn't enough to make you happy, was hurting his feelings. You have to understand that it wasn't just about money. My art was being recognized. Don't you feel happy for me? How many times should I have to tell you that I simply don't trust this anonymous person? Who knows, he might be a pervert. It was Farlan's job to deliver my artworks to the gate. I've never met this person and I never intend to. You paused for a moment when you realized something. Your face immediately went blank. Are you jealous? His eyes widened and his cheeks turned pink at your simple question. He immediately denied it even though his face sold him out. This person might be a woman. And if this client was a man, I don't see any problem in that. You are way too innocent for this world. People will feast on it. His disapproval began to pierce in your heart. You wanted to voice it out but you knew it would only aggravate him further. Be optimist. Perhaps my art was really remarkable. Yes, that's true, but I am still against it. He said, not looking at you, still not convinced. You sat beside him and hugged him. You quickly sensed his discomfort, but that didn't stop you to feel his warmth. I know you are worried for me, and I can hardly breathe at the thought of worrying you. You felt his frustrated growl as it vibrated through your chest. You cupped his cheek and turned his face to look at you. His worried eyes was begging you to obey him. But I want you to trust me as I trust you. You slipped your hand from his cheeks to the back of his neck to bring his face down to you, as you rose to meet his lips. He happily welcomed you. His rough hand instinctively snaked around your waist while his other hand cupped your cheek to restrain you from pulling back. Both of you subconsciously closed your eyes to savor the passionate kiss. As he pulled back, his breath fanned in your own lips. Your happiness is my happiness. Whatever makes you happy, I had to oblige. But promise me one thing. He paused to push your hair behind your ear. He kissed your cheek very softly. It made your heart sang his name inside your chest. If someone makes you feel uncomfortable or threatened, tell me immediately. I will. That's a promise. You whispered, not breaking the eye contact. But he sported a cocky smile and said, I guess I deserve a long kiss this time. Before you could speak, he closed the gap once again to give you a satisfying deep kiss. Levi freed the steel wire of his malfunctioning vertical maneuver gear to pierce the head of his enemy. The arrowhead struck deeply in the skull, resulting instant death. Even though he was outnumbered, he easily wiped them out all by himself. Farlan parted his lips in awe as he watched Levi spin and danced through the air. His great distaste towards the man was replaced with admiration. He never witnessed such a display of physical agility and coordination using vertical maneuver gear. Farlan knew Levi ever since he had seen him secretly visiting you every night a year ago, but he never confronted him. He was too afraid to face his wrath. When you were kidnapped, he knew Levi was his last resort to save you. But the news about you, living under the same roof with the most wanted man in the underground, did not sit well with him. However, he was thankful that you were in the safest place in the underground, especially now that the whole city was engaged in a bloody war. Many youngsters same age as Farlan wanted to be part of Levi's faction, but he bluntly discouraged them, that he had no business taking snotty brats under his wings, that he had no use for the weaklings. As if I will join that midget. Farlan snorted at the idea of serving him. Levi went straight home after a long day, wiping out the vermin. For a whole day, he was looking forward for your presence. As soon as he opened the door, the sound of the mattress constantly shifting coming from the room made his eyebrows furrowed. After he washed his hands, he walked to the door to check on you. A ray of light illuminated the room as the door creaked opened. You were sleeping in the bed, a white blanket covering your body. Your evening hair fanned out around the pillow. A thin layer of sweat was lining your temples. Your body was constantly shifting under the fabric. Low groans were escaping your lips, clenching your teeth in between. You were having a nightmare, again. The sight of you crying in your sleep tightened his chest. Levi came to your side, to rub your cheek, to wake you up. Your eyes were still closed and it was rolling behind your eyelids. Another tear drops ran to your cheek. His finger immediately wiped it away. You only opened your eyes when he gently shook your shoulder. As soon as you saw his ocean blue eyes, your breath became normal. Your heart felt at ease instantly. A faint smile cracked on your lips. Levi. Bad dreams. You shook your head a little. No, I was just tired. I'm sorry. Why? What are you apologizing for? Your hand was about to reach for his cheek, but his hand immediately snatched it and brought it to his lips. He started to plant multiple soft kisses at the top of it. Your leg got hurt because of me. So, I'm sorry. My leg got hurt because I didn't listen to you. Plus, no one learned something without pain or failing. You lifted your upper body using your elbows for support and Levi helped you to sit properly. I used too much gas, that's why I fell. None of it was your fault. Levi's right hand sneaked under the blanket, tracing your thigh until it reached your swollen ankle. The gesture gave you goosebumps, yet you didn't stop him. He gradually lifted your feet as his other hand pushed the blanket in that area to have a better view of your injury. The redness was still there, but it was getting better. I think you should forget about using the vertical maneuver gear. Perhaps it might not for you, he said, tracing your swollen ankle very gently. But how can I remodel your gear if I didn't know how the machine works? I never asked you to repair it. Your scowl deepened as you failed to hide the displeased look in your face. Not gonna happen. Now that my interest was hooked on it. No one can stop me. Levi mentally agreed that once you are hooked on something, you wouldn't stop until you have your answers. Your love to discover many things really amused him. He used to support you before and he intend to support you forever, whatever makes you happy. But you're a genius, I know that, and you are quite good in many things. He paused to heave a deep sigh as he finally expressed his disquiet, but this thing is dangerous. You gave a nonchalant shrug, a sweet smile plastered to your face. That's fine. I know you're gonna catch me if I fall again. Taken aback, Levi began to blush profusely. His heart certainly felt like no longer had the strength to beat. He began massaging the back of his neck while avoiding your eyes. A cute pout was visible in his lips. But you completely ignored all of it. And if I really wanted to see the sun, I have to use it. I am weak and cannot fight. With so many things happening right now here in the underground, the least I could do is escape. His attempts to discourage you was now shattered, because what you stated was a fact. He knew he couldn't protect you all the time. The least he could offer was help you to preserve yourself from danger. A week later, as soon as your leg got better, you began practicing the gear again. Levi was quite proud on how you quickly mastered it for a short time. Even his men was cheering you from below, watching a little bird finally flew high. They all witnessed how you started from extreme confusion until you finally learned how to spin gracefully in the air. Everyone was proud of you. Another week later, Levi became more busy as the civil war escalated in some areas in the underground. It was now difficult to maintain the peace in his territory. The news about the purge in the certain area quickly traveled and reached you. It was the area where your little friends resided. You knew better than anyone that those children had no capacity to fight for themselves. Without further ado, you quickly geared up and came to their aid. Your promise to Levi to remain at home was flooding your mind, but you pushed it away. The children needed me right now. Levi can scold me later. As soon as your feet landed on the ground, your stomach churned at the sight. It was all red. It was literally a bloodbath. Men, women, and children, all lying on the ground, not breathing anymore. You quickly recognized some of them as they were the reason why you came here. Your knees weakened and buckled until your body collapsed on the ground. You broke down in tears as you held one of them in your arms. These innocent children. How cruel the world can be. Their sweet voices filled your ears, laughing and singing with you, calling you sister or sometimes calling you their mother. You taught them how to write and read. You taught them how to cook and sew. You taught them how to survive in a beautiful and humble ways. You taught them to have courage and be kind all the time. These children could fly higher if they didn't murder them. Your beautiful dreams. They were included in that. You and Levi, with these beautiful children in a farmhouse, living the best days of your life. But they were all gone now. Be kind? Levi was right, you were too innocent for this cruel world. When you decided to finally give up, to let go of your humanity, a familiar voice filtered to your clouded mind, bringing you back to reality. Sister. For a moment your heart suddenly stopped. You slowly turned to see Farlan crying from across the street. Even your limbs were extremely weak, it didn't stop you to run towards him. Both of you burst into tears as you hugged each other. One of them was alive. You came for me. I was late. But I thanked the gods, you are unharmed. With tears running down your cheeks, you showered him with many kisses. You were so glad that he was safe. Your tears burst even more when Farlan told you that his father died protecting him, that everyone you knew were already dead. According to him, this unfortunate area was chosen to be purged by the military police. At the mention of the purge, your face failed to hide its utmost rage. But it was instantly disappeared as soon as you heard a crying child nearby. A voice of a little girl, silently sobbing. It was so low, almost inaudible. It's not safe here, sister, we have to hide. If something happens to you, Levi will surely hurt me. Ignoring Farlan and the possibility that you might be hallucinating only, you rose from your spot and began trailing the sound. You silently prayed under your breath that the voice of an angel was real. That there was still another one alive. And then your eye caught a glimpse of a pink-haired girl cowering behind a wooden box. Without wasting more time, the two of you sprinted to her spot. The little girl was brave enough to survive the purge, all alone. Tell me your name, beautiful. Inhaling a large amount of air into her lungs, the little girl, almost same age as Farlan, tried her best to blink back the tears from her eyes. Isabel. My name is Isabel. The introduction was interrupted by a giant blast. The three of you immediately braced for impact. Sister, we need to run. He was right, soon this place was going to be a gate of hell, and the image of it wasn't pretty. Farlan, protect her. I will do the fighting if someone attacks us. You took the knife from your pocket. Levi gave it to you, but he never taught you how to use it. He just simply instructed that if someone tried to hurt you, you must pierce it in the chest. The idea of hurting someone, evil or not, was giving a sick feeling on your stomach. But you knew you had to do it when the time comes. And you knew this was the right time. Ignoring your thumping heart, you kept your face straight forward and high, determined to stay strong, to be the shield of these frightened children. As you all walked past each alleys, your heart pounded louder and faster. The three of you immediately halted at once as soon as you heard the sound of gunshots and clashing of steels together with agonizing screams and menacing laughs. You all raced for a safe place, but it was too late. The thugs, who were participating in the war, already confined the three of you in a circular formation. Few of them was prowling around in a predatory manner. The thirst for blood was clearly readable in their eyes. The beautiful woman is mine. Your breaths quickened as the leader took a step forward, already claiming you with his hungry eyes. He licked his lips, while his bloodshot eyes was scanning your body from head to toe, giving you a nasty look. Your hair stood on ends as your heart thumped nervously. What? That's not fair. You greedy old fart. Commotion happened between of them. fighting over who would have you first. Your body extremely shook in fear. No matter how much harder you gripped the knife, it almost slipped from your hands. A tear freed itself and ran down your cheek. You began to pray under your breath, that Levi would come and save you again. Please, someone save us. What about you restrain her arms and feet, and I will have her first, then you can have your turns after me. What you say? That's fine to me. As long as you would save some for us, no further complaints from our mouths. Upon hearing those words, your blood ran cold. Your whole body became weak. You just stood there motionless in despair. You are too innocent for this world. People will feast on it. Farlan, who was also shaking in fear, bravely stood in front of you, shielding your body from the evil men. With your gear, you can lift the girl and get away easily. I will buy you enough time, I will hold them as long as I can. Upon seeing his back, your mind immediately snapped back to its senses. No, Farlan, stand back. You tried to bring him in your back again, but he was resisting. I am the adult here. I should be the one protecting you. This time, the tears he was trying to hold back finally sprang from his eyes. You knew what they would do to you. I cannot let them hurt you. Tears filled your eyes as you sobbed. Isabel hugged you from your back, crying from her heart. Enough of these shits. Kill the boy and save the little pink-haired girl for dessert. You abruptly grabbed Farlan's shoulder and pushed him at the back with Isabel. Run until your feet bleeds. I will hold them down. Farlan's eyes widened in horror as soon as those words left your lips. We're not gonna leave you. You grabbed both of his shoulders and looked straight on his eyes. You are a man now. It's your responsibility to bring Isabel to safety. You kissed his forehead as a farewell gesture, and you pushed him away with Isabel. Go. Without realizing that the kids didn't leave, you held your knife and extended it forward to the men. The long-haired bitch thinks she can stop us. The men burst into fits of menacing laughter. Sister, if we are gonna die, let us die with you. Farlan and Isabel both hugged your sides as they sobbed against your clothes. The sight of them, giving up, really broke your heart. I'm sorry. I failed to protect the two of you. You broke down in tears as well. You wanted to hug them back, to comfort them, but you couldn't just do it. You wanted to at least give your best to fight back. To fight for these kids. To fight your way home. To fight your way back to Levi. You wanted to see him so badly. As the men slowly closing their distance, a big explosion shook the ground. Suddenly, everything and everywhere was exploding. The three of you looked upward and saw circular objects raining from above. When one circular object kissed the abandoned merchant's carriage, it exploded. All its parts flew in many directions. You had to shield the children from getting hit. Smoke and dust filled the air. With your quick thinking, you immediately grabbed Farlan and Isabel to get away as far as possible before the smoke cleared. The three of you hid in a safe place before the dust settled in. No one spoke. All of you were panting and wheezing. The sound of explosions were still bouncing inside your ears. Your fear hadn't eased off when a man slowly emerged from the shadows. You immediately stood up and shielded the children from his view. Who's there? The man regarded her for a few seconds before he spoke. It was easier than expected. I didn't even break a sweat. The man spoke, looking amazed at the sight in front of him. Yuri didn't fail to give fine details. Beautiful indeed. The man was dressed well, it was easily to guess that he was not a thug. But that scared you more. If he was a military police, then you were all doomed. The man was a foot taller than you, slim but physically well built. He was wearing a brown coat that reached his knees and a brown bowler hat. Wrinkles around his eyes made it evident that he was in his mid-40s. You knew fighting him was not an option. Sir, please, don't hurt us. You also knew that begging was your last resort to save yourself and the children. When he took a step forward, you immediately backed away, shielding the children with your own body. You took the knife from your waist and held it forward. The knife almost slipped from your shaking, sweated hands. "Sir, I beg you, please. Please, don't make another step." A hint of recognition crossed his features as he stared at the knife in your hands. His eyes narrowed, but it quickly came back to normal. "That's not the right way to hold a knife. You hadn't realized that you were holding it upside down," the man roared, with laughter at your cluelessness. "Was it your first time holding a knife?" the man asked, mocking her. "You should have not steal something useless for you." "I didn't steal it. It was given to me." His mouth formed an O at your statement, but it quickly turned into grin. "So, your boyfriend gave it to you to protect yourself?" Your face turned red, but you quickly retorted, "How do you know if it was a man?" "It could be my mother who gave it to me." The man laughed harder. "That's it. Buy some time. Whatever it takes." "That cannot be true, unless that unfriendly brat sold the knife to some random whore for pleasure." Confusion clouded your features, so he spoke further to make you understand. "Every woman here is a whore. I was sure that your mother was also a prostitute." Even though what he said was true, still you couldn't help but to feel offended. Your face flashed with anger. "How dare you insulted my mother?" Didn't seem remorse, the man feigned an apology. For few seconds he was studying you very intently, and then the man finally put the pieces together. A proud grin appeared on his lips. That brat finally became a man. The man was laughing at the top of his lungs. He even clapped his hands together for a mocking effect. "That settles then. All I need is to report back." He took a step forward again, but this time he held up his hands in the air, showing you that he wasn't a threat. "Relax. But you wouldn't trust a stranger, especially this weird man." "No. Please, sir, I beg you to back away." He swiftly snatched your hands and gripped it firmly. You gasped and tried to lose his grip, but he was very strong. Farlan and Isabel tried to kick his knees, but it had zero effect on him. You only calmed down when the man adjusted the knife in your hand in a correct position. He even told you the correct stance to hold a knife. First rule, don't hesitate. Do it before your guilt consumed your head. Ha! You were too beautiful for this hell, and I am not killing you for that reason. The man gently grabbed your shoulder and pushed you to the street. "Now off you go, brats. That street will lead you to a safer area." Before you took a step forward, you looked back, but the man was not there anymore. Whoever he was right. The street led the three of you to a safer place. Isabel reunited with her family. Her parents didn't even had a chance to thank you, as you and Farlan departed from the place without wasting any second. After all, her safety was now guaranteed. You and Farlan continued to walk until the alley became familiar. When your home was finally in sight, a frantic man rushed to meet you. "Miss." He was one of Levi's friends. "Thank the God. Where have you been? All of us were looking for you." As if your adrenaline finally drained out, you felt your whole body suddenly weak and shaky. You squeezed your eyes shut as your vision was darkening. Farlan had to help you sit in the stair. You heard them speaking to each other, not bothering to include you anymore. "Sister, I will stay with him for tonight. You stay here and wait for Levi." His words didn't sink in well in your mind, and you just merely hummed his response. You didn't know how much time passed until you cleared your vision. You glanced around in clear confusion when you realized that you were now completely alone. "Farlan? Everyone?" The lack of response from anyone filled your head with many unpleasant thoughts again. The image of lifeless bodies of those innocent children was flashing your mind. Those rosy cheeks and lips that were now pale and dark. Those beautiful eyes that were now completely blank. Tears filled your eyes once again. You failed to save those angels. The world was originally cruel, dark, and hopeless, but you were too way ignorant to realize it before. Your face slowly lost its emotion as your hope for humanity slowly vanished. Until, a movement from above made your gaze turn upward. Levi gracefully landed on the ground, few meters away from you. What if I died earlier? Who would look after him? Suddenly, a newfound hope was making its way in your hardened heart. The sight of him instantly made your chest felt lighter. If it means leaving him alone in this cruel world, then I don't want to die. I can't just give up. Ignoring the unpleasant look he was throwing at you, you dashed to meet him halfway to kiss him like it was the end of the world. Your need to feel his warmth against your lips and your already heated body was great. Taken aback, Levi just stood frozen, letting you dominate the kiss. But he quickly recovered from the shock and returned your kiss, rough and deep. His hands snaked around your waist and pulled you against his body while your fingers raked his raven hair, still not breaking the kiss. Levi knew that you were just kissing him to forget things that was bothering you. But he didn't dare to deny your need for him as he too wanted it badly. As if grinding each other wasn't enough, Levi picked you up as you jumped to wrap your legs around his waist. Still not breaking the intense kiss. If it wasn't for the gears, it would be very comfortable. Still, that didn't stop Levi to bring you back inside, effortlessly. After your back was slammed against the wall, he attacked your neck vigorously. Below your ears, the crook of your shoulder, your throat, your jaw, and your chin. You didn't dare stop him as you began to like this side of him. While he was busy taking his lovely time in your mouth and your neck, you used this opportunity to remove his gears. He did the same thing to your gear as well. As he went for your lips once again, your hands subconsciously unbuttoned his vest. When your fingers slowly traced his chest down to his abdominal muscles, goosebumps followed. When it was his time to sneak his hands inside your shirt, something snapped at him. He broke the kiss and looked at you, his blue eyes was begging you to stop him. Are you sure you want to do it? You cupped his cheeks and took his lips again, but this time he didn't return the kiss. This isn't you. Yes, Levi really want to do it with you so badly, but he knew something was really bothering you and he didn't want to take advantage of the situation. He wanted to do it you with pure love, not for some other foolish reasons. We need to talk. I wanted to hear your side of the story. Do you have any idea how worried I am? He heaved a sigh of disappointment and he frowned as he began to speak again. Why did you disobey me? What happened there that was so hard for that Farlan to tell? He finally demanded. You finally released the air of anxiety from your chest, your body began to tremble as the unpleasant memories started to come back. The encounter with the thugs was still lingering in your head, even you tried your best to bury it in the deepest pit of your brain. What if the explosives didn't happen? Would you still be here in one piece? The thought of the unfulfilled evil plan made the knot in the pit of your stomach tighter. I am sorry. I didn't mean to disobey you. You said between your sobs, but I did what I had to do. Your hands reached for support, but he hugged you and kissed your forehead instead. Watching you cry was his weakness, but he wanted to be part of that pain. Tell me more about it. He whispered in your ear, I want to know everything. Will you promise that you will only listen and do nothing? He didn't answer, he just merely nodded. You began your story when you learned about the purge in that certain area, when you disobeyed his order to stay at home and when rushed to aid the unfortunate children. You described what you saw, and how you found Farlan alive and how you met Isabel. At the mention of Farlan, you watched his demeanor change but you completely ignored it as you continued your story. You tried to skip the part where the thugs came in the scene. But Levi knew there was a void in your story, after all you were a bad liar. The thugs wouldn't let you go easily. Just tell me everything. Leave nothing out. You took in a deep breath, suddenly finding it difficult to gather air. Those thugs. The look in their eyes. You had no courage to refresh it on your mind. We ran. That's it. You simply said, because you didn't want to elaborate further because that required lying more to Levi. And you knew he would quickly see through your lies. Levi, being selfish this time, forced the truth from you. Even your discomfort to this topic was obvious. With tears running down your cheeks, you finally told him what those evil men planned to do with you. You also described how dirty they looked at you from head to toe. Upon learning the truth, Levi lost the ability to breathe. His whole body shook violently in anger. Well, he badly wanted the truth, you gave it to him. When he was about to leave, you quickly hugged him very tightly, whispering anything in his ear that could calm him down. After several attempts to calm him down, his breath finally came back to normal. He gently returned your hug and kissed you softly in the head. Tell me more. Are you sure? He just nodded, so you resumed your story again, but this time in the part where you managed to escape from those thugs. But the tension on his shoulder increased when you mentioned about a man in a brown coat and hat. His expression hardened when a worse memory from his past flashed on his mind. Brown coat that reached his knee and a brown hat shading his wrinkled face. He knew it was Kenny. Negative thoughts raced in his mind. He quickly concluded all the worst possibilities. He knew that the man wouldn't simply hi to any woman. Kenny wanted something from you. But what is it? He had no idea. All he knew was, Kenny was a bad news. Yes, he taught him many things for survival, but what in return? His heart was now polluted. Then Levi felt your lips in his cheek, recapturing his attention. What are you thinking? For a moment, he was just staring at you, praising your angelic face, drowning himself how much innocent and beautiful you are. Kenny already tainted his heart, he wouldn't let him taint yours. Never. He tucked a lock of your hair behind your ear as he slowly caressed your soft cheek. Please, never disobey me. If you want to save anyone or everyone, just tell me. I will help you, so don't ever run and save the day yourself. New tears formed in the corner of your eyes, he immediately wiped it as soon as it ran down your cheeks. Your tears are wounding my heart. You bit your lips to fight back the tears, but your heart finally sank when you saw his eyes glistened. Don't cry, Levi. Promise, I'll never cry again. His mouth curved into smile when you said those words. Your heart is so pure and innocent. His rough hand in your cheek slowly slid down to your half-exposed chest. Your heart raced and Levi felt it against his palm. I promise, I will keep it untainted forever. Levi tilted his head again to recapture your lips again. The song that was playing in your heart refused to go even in your sleep, as both of you was sharing that sweet beautiful dreams in the same bed.